Look, I'm actually doing a Halloween review, and I decided to do something that I used to get a lot of requests for. And I mean a lot of people were very insistent about this one. Well, I'm finally getting around to it, okay? So you better be grateful, you bunch of cunt. Skeleton Warriors was an animated series that aired for only one season on CBS in 1995. It was created by Gary Goddard, who previously created the TV show Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. He was inspired to create Skeleton Warriors from Conan, specifically the old Universal Studios live show, as well as the Ray Harryhausen stop-motion skeletons from the film Jason and the Argonauts. Many people were initially excited about the idea of Skeleton Warriors, and a lot of merchandise was spawned, which included a video game for the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn, a short Marvel Comics series, and of course a line of action figures which, in my opinion, are some of the best the 90s had to offer. Pretty cool, huh? Bet you want it, don't you? Yeah, well, you can't have it. This one's mine. Skeleton Warriors is also kind of a rarity, as it's one of the few series that was basically sold on the bad guys, which is a pretty ballsy move. And we're gonna find out if it all paid off when I take a look at the animated series for Skeleton Warriors. So in the futuristic medieval kingdom of Luminicity, which is like the most pretentious name for a place I've ever heard. Welcome to Luminicity, where everything is shiny and perfect. The kingdom is run by a trio of royal siblings who are left in charge of the Light Star Crystal, which is a source of immeasurable power. But the evil Baron Dark wants the power for himself. You can tell he's evil because his name is Baron Dark. Sounds like some try-hard edgelord's attempt at a gamer tag. Just put some X's around it and there you go. So he tricks the youngest one, Joshua, into getting him the crystal, but the eldest son, Justin, tries to stop him. The struggle causes the crystal to split, which unleashes its power and turns Baron Dark into a skeleton warrior.
I live!
He makes off with half of the crystal and discovers he now has the power to turn others into skeletons, so he uses his new power on his minions. There's the brains of the group, Dr. Cyborn, who's half machine, and yes, his name is Cyborn. Creative. Dagger, who's this little guy that I'm pretty sure they just keep around for laughs. Oracula, who's some kind of half spider, half man. A man-spider, if you will. And finally, Shriek, and yes, apparently that's her actual name. Man, her parents must have hated her. I'd also like to point out that despite being a skeleton now, she still wears a breastplate to cover up the tits she no longer has. She may be an evil undead skeleton, but at least she's modest. So they go off to attack the kingdom, but fortunately the royal siblings were also exposed to the power of the crystal. Justin gains the ability to shoot energy bolts from his hand, though he seems to have trouble controlling it. The middle child, Jennifer, gains the ability to fly, and Joshua gets transformed halfway into a skeleton warrior, which I guess makes him a zombie? Zombie warrior? He also has the ability to disappear into the shadows and travel just about anywhere. So the skeleton warriors attack the kingdom, and it's revealed that while they're taken out fairly easily, they can quickly reassemble themselves, effectively making them indestructible.
We have achieved immortality! Satisfying, isn't it, Doctor? The ultimate weapon!
This causes Justin, Jennifer, and Joshua to retreat and seek out the help of their uncle Ursak. Man, I really don't like his name. It sounds like the name of an internal organ that constantly gets infected. Like, ugh, my Ursak is acting up again. Ugh. Fortunately, he seems well equipped to help them out.
This is amazing.
What a basement.
This, my underground battle station, is what I've spent my life creating.
You like my doomsday bunker? I built it in case society collapsed and we had to overthrow the government. Oh, wait a minute. You guys are the government. Well, this just got awkward. So they team up to fight off the Skeleton Warriors and try to reclaim their kingdom. They also, for some reason, get cool nicknames?
Justin, with the fire of the crystal in your blood, you are now Prince Lightstar.
Uncle Ursak, we have names, you know.
Jennifer, because the crystal has given you the ability to fly, your new name shall be Talon.
Why are they doing this? They don't need code names. This isn't G.I. Joe.
Joshua, the crystal has selected you to bear the pain of your actions. Because you move within the shadows of darkness, you shall be called Grimskull.
Grimskull. Yes, it is a name that suits me.
I shall write about this extensively on the internet. Dear LiveJournal, life is pain. Taking back their kingdom will be no easy task, as the Skeleton Warriors are unrelenting and their numbers grow every day. Fortunately, they are not without their weaknesses. Everyone converted into a skeleton has a crystal attached to their spine, and if it's removed or broken, they turn back into a human.
No! No! We're fleshies again!
Ew, flesh! I forgot how gross this stuff is. Ugh. It's also revealed that not just anyone can be turned into a skeleton warrior.
I've turned dozens of people into skeleton warriors.
Everyone you transformed so far was already evil. You simply made their appearance reflect their true nature.
Yes, as science will tell us, there are some people who are just genetically evil. Hey, wasn't that the plot of the Doom movie? I guess what they're implying is that you have to be treacherous or cowardly or something like that. Which is why Joshua almost got fully converted. He was envious of his older brother, and this is what he became when exposed to the crystal. Joshua is easily the most interesting character in the show because he's essentially scarred by his sins, and he also has a direct mental connection to Baron Dark, who often tries to steer him toward evil. They can also mentally see where the other is, which causes problems with the allies as they see him as a security risk, and people are just generally hostile towards him because this is all essentially his fault. But he fends off Baron Dark's influence and has vowed to fight against the Skeleton Warriors and repent for what he's done. Though maybe he laments a little too much.
I am guilty of treason committed against my own brother. I don't want her to see me in your position. I wouldn't trust me either. Don't they know they'll be trying a man who's already been condemned?
Okay, Hot Topic, we get it, you're tortured.
Why don't you just go back to your Justin Timberlake and your homework, you conformist asshole? You just don't know what real pain is.
This does lead to one of the major problems with this show. It's kind of miserable. This is one of those few shows where the villains have basically won. The kingdom was taken by a nearly unstoppable force whose numbers grow every day, and everyone that can't be converted gets enslaved. Also, it seems like the majority of this kingdom was populated by assholes. This makes the good guys the underdogs, which can make for a compelling story, and for the most part, it does. But when your bad guys are basically invincible, the good guys don't get much opportunity for victory. Most of the time, things would end in a draw, or victories would be Pyrrhic. In one episode, there's a neutral kingdom both sides are trying to gain the favor of because they manufacture fuel. Justin wants it for his people, and the skeletons want it for a warship. Ultimately, the skeletons invade and they try to take over, but the king decides to blow up their fuel reserves to destroy their warship. Sure, they stop them from getting the fuel, but that's their kingdom's livelihood, their economy. Gone. There's also a bunch of plot points that seem to get abandoned. I mentioned before the skeletons can be turned if their crystal is broken, so they try to create a weapon that'll shatter it from a distance. Baron Dark also becomes concerned about this because if he gets turned back, they can't make any new skeleton warriors. And nothing ever really comes of this. They never finish the weapons, and nor do they try to go after Baron Dark directly. This resistance kind of sucks.
Returning after these messages. Now, back to the show.
Look, all I'm saying is a little bit of levity would have done wonders. It seems they tried to with Dagger. He's the closest thing we get to some kind of comic relief.
Are you in there?
Get me out of here now!
Right, sir. This could take a minute.
You see, he's got a Cockneyed accent, which automatically makes him funny. I also like that the skeletons are sometimes seen eating and drinking, or at least trying to. Wasting food, now that is pure evil. Probably the funniest part was discovering that Shriek has a bit of a crush on Justin, which he's not too thrilled about.
How about a little smooch?
I'd rather suck transmonia death stones.
I'll see what I can arrange.
Sorry, sweetheart, I like my women with vaginas. And the rest of their internal organs. And skin. And, well, you get the idea.
If you offend Dodagarn, we may all be out on our backsides.
Lucky you've got so much padding.
Was that a big butt joke? Well, I guess next to Shriek, anyone would have a big butt. Speaking of funny, look at this. That's the same guy. They just drew the same model several times. I guess that's what happens when you spend most of the time designing the bad guys, which do look really cool and are easily the best part of this whole thing. And here's a fun fact for you. This show was originally supposed to be in CGI. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough time to put that together, so they went with traditional. Yes, back then it was easier to do traditional animation than CGI, and in my opinion, I think it worked out for the best. But we can get a glimpse of what it might have looked like, because every episode starts with a giant floating CGI skull voiced by Tony Jay.
These are the tales of the Skeleton Warriors.
This is how every TV show should start. In each episode, he pops up at the beginning and the end to say something about what the episode's moral was about.
In a world at war, is neutrality a genuine option? Must all parties take sides, or may a few remain apart, indifferent to the battles raging all around them? And what if that conflict arrives at your own front door?
Yeah. Think about that while you're trying to sleep tonight. Speaking of voice acting, I'll give credit to Philip Clark as the voice of Baron Dark. He hadn't done much else aside from that coveted voice actor role of additional voices, but he really gave a lot of personality to the character.
Oh, look, he wants to play. Cyborn, I said he wants to play.
With a villain like this, you really need it too. Though he's still no Skeletor.
Ah, how sickeningly sweet, gentle, soothing dreams.
I am not nice, I am not kind, and I am not wonderful.
Simple and to the point. Now that's how a pro does it. I think my other biggest issue with the show is a lot of the characters didn't really get expanded upon. There was Joshua, of course, and I guess Justin for trying to lead his people in the absence of his father. And I really like the idea of the main characters being the children of an absent king and queen, but we never really learn much about them. In fact, we only see the king briefly during a flashback. There was an episode where they thought the king was alive and tried to go rescue him, but it turned out to be some other guy who doesn't really contribute much to the show. Admittedly, the fake out was pretty well done, but it also contributes to the show being kind of miserable. We don't even know much about Baron Dark. Yeah, he's the main villain of the series, but we don't know why he's evil or exactly what his relationship to the royal family was. We only see him briefly as a human in the first episode, and the plot kicks off almost immediately. I think they should have called the show Oops, All Skeletons. There's only one time we get anything out of him, and it's in the final episode.
Why are you doing all this?
Because I can.
Okay, I gotta admit, I kinda like that. Why are you doing this? Why? Because shut up, that's why! Look, I know shows like this have a reputation of not being very deep and are pretty much just there to sell toys, but it's pretty obvious they tried to do something a bit more with it, and it just kind of fell short. I think the closest thing I can compare Skeleton Warriors to is Inhumanoids. It's another short-lived series sold on the villains and had an impressive toy line. But despite the show pushing the limits, it still knew not to take itself so seriously and gave lots of personality to the main characters. I think it's fine to show things like the evils of tyranny and the good guys being the underdogs in a kids show, but you also have to remember it's supposed to be for kids, and laying things on too thick is going to be a problem. You could make the argument that the cartoon wasn't really for kids, but it was a Saturday morning cartoon. It had action figures, it had a video game, it had a comic series. Seems like they were trying to market to kids. Maybe things could have improved in a second season, but sadly it never happened. And it was mainly due to the toys not selling very well. Yes, surprisingly, the figures, as impressive as they are, were not very popular at the time. And it's because Playmates wanted to mainly focus on the skeletons and not the good guys. Sure, they looked cool, and I'm sure some kids liked them, but leaving out the heroes was a huge mistake, because no kid wants to play the villain. The good guys did get released later, without Jennifer for some reason, but by then it was too late and the toys had failed, taking the show with it. In the final episode, they did give a conclusion, but there was certainly room to continue, and it probably would have had things worked out a little bit better. The show may have had a few shortcomings, but I can tell they at least tried with this one. Conceptually and visually, it's pretty good. And over the years, Skeleton Warriors has developed a bit of a cult following. In 2014, there was a Kickstarter to revive the action figures, and a new Baron Dark figure was created from it, though it's pretty hard to find nowadays. If you manage to pick up the show on DVD, there's a making of documentary on here with plenty of behind the scenes stuff, unused design concepts, and even an interview with creator Gary Goddard, who says that he would love to bring Skeleton Warriors back, and you know what? I think he should. I think Skeleton Warriors definitely falls into that category of things that would greatly benefit from a revival. The idea is cool, the fans are definitely still there, and with outlets like Netflix that allow creators more freedom, I can see it happening. And I think it would probably be better off as more of an adult-oriented show anyway. There's certainly a lot of room for improvement, but as it stands, Skeleton Warriors the animated series might not be amazing, but it's definitely bad. To the bone. So that is Skeleton Warriors. Not bad. Not bad. Well, thanks for watching, and join me next time when I review another cartoon from the archive.
Skeleton Warriors! Skeleton Warriors!
Hell no, I'm not marrying this bag of bones!
Seriously?
Yes, seriously.